Okay, so week the Torah portion is Behar, but instead of doing the Behar Sicha, we're going to do a teaching for Lag Baomer, which is the upcoming holiday this coming Sunday. And this is a holiday that's very mystical. And there are different things that we have bonfires, and we go to Miron if we're in Israel, and we dance around the bonfires and marshmallows and bows and arrows, but there's a lot of like unknown about this holiday, and we're going to delve in a little bit and see what are we actually celebrating, what is this holiday all about, and how does it apply to our life. Okay, so why are we celebrating? So I sent on the WhatsApp, Jessica, I'll send it to you. Oh, okay.
Are you on the WhatsApp? Is Jessica on the WhatsApp? I have on the first copy.
Okay, so Jessica, I'm going to send you the poem that you can follow along on your phone for now, and then we'll add you to the group later. Okay, so I just sent it to you. Okay. Lag Baomer is a special day because Rabbi Akiva's students stopped passing away. Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai was one of students 5 who remained alive. Okay, so backtrack. Rabbi Akiva, what was his history? When he was 40 years old, he was working for a very rich man, and this rich man had a daughter named Rachel, and they liked each other. And Rachel said, I will marry you if you go and promise that you're going to go and study Torah. And he was 40 years old.
Was he Jewish at that point? Because I think he was a convert.
Great question. I don't know. Yeah.
He was a convert. He comes out of convert, or he was a convert. I'm not sure.
Probably all the comments you probably still come on board. I know they come to learn all, we don't know the guy.
I know there's a convert in his background. He was definitely, there's something.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Okay, so he didn't even know the Aleph Beis. That's how the song that we sing in kindergarten goes, right? He didn't even know the Aleph Beis, and he said, okay, I promise I'll go learn Torah, and they got married, and her father disowned her because he was... I believe it was Israel. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, we got that. So what we're saying is that he was a descendant of converts. So I don't know how far back, but I believe that this whole story happened in the land of Israel, and he wasn't he needed a push to go and learn Torah, and he was walking one day and he sees a rock, and there was water dripping on the rock, and water can't really make a dent in a rock, but when water is dripping on a rock for so many years, eventually the water made a dent in the rock. And he compared water, well, we know that water is compared to Torah. So he said, if water could make a dent in this rock, then certainly Torah could make a dent in my head, in my heart, in my soul, and I'll be able to succeed in learning Torah. So he actually studied Torah for 24 years, and he amassed 24,000 students. And then a terrible plague started, and his students started dying in this time of the year, in the days of Sfira, Sa'imer. And it seems so difficult to understand, but out of 24,000 students, only 5 students remained alive. Only 5 students survived this plague. And why are we celebrating on Lag Baomer? Because on Lag Baomer is the day that the students stopped dying. There's different opinions, but everyone agrees that on Lag Baomer, no one died. That's one reason.
think Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai is one of your five.
Yes.
And he was there.
Yes.
But not during this period, not during the migration.
Yes.
period.
So one reason what are we celebrating? We're celebrating that there were five celebrate the students stopped dying, leaving 5 students left to uphold the Torah. And the second reason why we're celebrating Lag Baomer is because Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai, who is one of the survivors, one of the 5 that survived, it's his yahrzeit. It's the day that he passed away. So really, this is 2 opposites. On one hand, you're celebrating the fact that Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai remained alive. And the same time, the same day, what are you celebrating? You're celebrating the day that he passed away. So it's 2 opposites.
How many years ago?
Okay, a good question. I don't know. It was obviously, from a historical perspective.
It was during the
Oh.
7 days Hamikra.
So yes. We're talking temple times, the times of the second temple, which is hundreds of years later. Yeah.
They said it was 420
Yeah.
years. It took them 40 years to get to the Eretz Yisrael,
Yes.
then to be Kaivet the Eretz, then to build the Beis Hamikdash, and then the 4th tent that it stood.
Yeah.
And this happened, and then 70 years of Galus.
Yeah.
And
So
then
you're talking over 1,000 years after the giving of the Torah, even more. It depends. I don't know exactly when. Right.
You're trying to understand how we didn't know the alphabets.
Yeah.
It's a very good question.
So that's some people,
Right.
some people don't.
So he was a shepherd. A lot of
but
times.
also the kufa of the second Beis Hamikdash was the worst kufa of Klal Yisrael, because the Yidden did not get along with each other. There was, even though there was a Beis Hamikdash, there was a lot of fighting going on with the Kohanim. It was not a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's
History repeats itself.
Yeah. But we find a lot of times that our great leaders, they started off being shepherds in nature, the blue sky, the sheep, the grass, and then Moses, King David, they were shepherds. And then, and the main thing is that they took such great care of the sheep. A good shepherd knows that there's old sheep, there's young sheep, there's baby sheep, there's strong sheep, which sheep gets which grass, and who goes first and who goes second. Yeah, and then when you have that develops the care, and God said about Moses that he took such good care of the sheep, then for sure they will take such good care of the Jewish people. So we find our greatest leaders started off as shepherds. Yeah, so our forefathers, yes. Yeah. And also Yosef, when Yosef was second to the king, and when his father Jacob was going to come down to Egypt with the rest of his brothers, he requested from the king Paro to give them a piece of land, Goshen, which was primarily a grassy place, so that they could continue being shepherds. They could sit and learn Torah. But this is great. This is great that we're speaking about this, because what we're going to ultimately be talking about today is, do we seclude ourselves and just learn all day and be spiritual, or is there something more that we have to do? What is it? The question is that yes, our great leaders started out as shepherds, taking care of the sheep, being in nature, being secluded, that they could just study Torah and no one should bother them. Is that the ideal for a Jew? Or is that just like step one? Or what more is expected of us? Obviously, to remain a shepherd, that's not the ultimate. The ultimate is that to impact the world, not just that I should be able to seclude myself and meditate on and learn Torah all day, but what impact? We always have to question. This is where we're going with this class. We always have to question what impact is this going to have in the world? That's the measuring stick, to know if we're on the right track. If I'm just,
It's also the foundation. I'm thinking how their foundation was. with the land, secluded, meditating on Hashem, you know?
Yeah,
So at what point do you meditate? At what point do you need both?
we need both. Absolutely. So this is what the class is about. Okay.
Look out the rabbit about Shem Tov all went to
Yes.
seclusion,
Yeah,
and then they were able to come back and do their Avodah.
right, right.
I guess we all need our space.
But we also have to have the goal. We have to see the bigger picture. We have to see, sometimes we need to take a step back and to recharge, rejuvenate, absolutely. But we have to see the entire time, we have to see the big picture and what our goal is, and not to get stuck somewhere, but to see the whole picture. Okay. Another reason for celebrating is because Lag Baomer is the day of the Rashbi's passing. Rashbi is Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai. How can we celebrate two opposite things at the same time? So in order to answer this question, what is life for a tzaddik? We must first define. We want to understand how can we be celebrating, on one hand, the fact that the Rashbi remained alive, the Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai was survived this plague. At the same time, we're celebrating the fact that he passed away. He wanted the day of his passing should be a day of joy. So first we have to understand, what is a tzaddik's life? What does it mean, life for a tzaddik? It does not mean a physical, fleshy life, to come on this earth and just be busy with material things. That is not true life. What is true life? What is living? What is living? Living is that you're learning Torah and you're doing mitzvahs. That is true life. So when a tzaddik passes away, for all of us left behind, it's very sad. But if you look from a deeper perspective, a yahrzeit, a day of a tzaddik's passing, especially a tzaddik who busied himself with true life, with learning Torah and doing mitzvahs his entire life, what happens on a day of a passing is all the good deeds that the person did his entire life all come together. And in an open and revealed way, everything that this tzaddik did, the perfection of all the mitzvahs that he did his whole life, all come together, and it's revealed and seen in an open way. So when we define it that way, it's not a contradiction anymore. Why did Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai stay alive? Why did he stay alive? Because he had a different approach than the rest of the 24,000 students. And this different approach is highlighted and shines in an open and revealed way when? On the day of his passing, which is the culmination of his entire mission. So we asked the question, seemingly it seemed like two opposite things. He survives the plague, we're happy. But then he passes away on this very day, and we still are happy. He passed away on Lag Baomer many years later. Yeah.
Maybe he didn't die of the plague because his mission was not enough. He still had to give a lot of lessons and spread the wisdom.
So Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai and his four other colleagues, they had a different avodah. They had a different service. They served God differently, and therefore, they did not die when the rest of them died, and therefore the day of his passing can also be a day of celebration because it's culminating what he stood for, which is what helped him survive. So it's not two opposites. It's not a contradiction anymore. Okay. A life worth living is a life of doing mitzvahs and Torah learning. So when a tzaddik passes away, he completes his mission. In an open way, his avodah shines because of its perfection. The Rashbi's mission was the opposite of Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 Talmidim. Talmidim means students. It was the Rashbi's avodah, his service, that stopped the students from dying. Therefore, for his passing, Lag Baomer is the day that is most fitting. So his approach is what stopped the plague, and when was the plague stopped on Lag Baomer? So Lag Baomer basically defines and culminates who he was, what he stood for, his philosophy, and that's why Lag Baomer ended up being the day that he passed away, because what he did to stop the plague was his Avodah, was his service. And when was that culminated? On Lag Baomer years later, when on his yahrzeit, and he requested that it should be a day of joy. Okay, so let's see, what was the problem? Why did they die in the first place? 24,000 minus 5 students to die. What was their sin? What did they do?
Maybe also that we had so many students. Like in Europe, pre-war Europe, big, didn't have that many. Amazing.
Yeah.
I know, but it's amazing. So it was right in the middle. So it'd be like how many. I know you have so many like.
1,000 students a year. 24 years. 1,000 students a year. He worked hard. And he obviously was an incredible personality. Rabbi Akiva was an incredible person. Love your fellow as yourself is the teaching of Rabbi Akiva. But each of his students had a particular way of understanding the Torah. They tried to influence their friends to serve Hashem in their way. But when it didn't work, they didn't treat one another respectfully, our sages say. So this story is coming from the Gemara. It's not like, just a story in a storybook. This is recorded in the Gemara. And what does it say?
So quickly after last week's meeting,
Remind me.
that we meet every single night.
Yeah.
And then you're going for this.
Yes.
Baomer.
Okay, there we go. Gemara is the Talmud. The Gemara is the Talmud.
And that's what,
That's the oral teachings they were meant to, they were original. There's in the Torah has a, what is it?
It's the same thing, like the Gemara and the Talmud. are the
Yes,
same thing?
yes.
Nice.
So when God gave us the Torah, it was divided into the oral teachings
Right.
and the written.
Right.
So the oral teachings are supposed to be passed down from father to son. But eventually, when our sages saw that was being forgotten,
Right.
they recorded it initially as the Mishnah, which was very, very short and
Oh, that's what-
concise.
yes, the next, yeah.
And then when the Mishnah wasn't enough, then came the sages compiled the Gemara, which is the oral teachings written down. So that it should be, that should be forever.
And it was the Midrash written down?
The Medrash is the Midrashim are also written down. Yes.
So they're all the same thing, they just go deeper, more.
There's deeper, there's different levels,
Because when
absolutely.
they say according to this, according to that, I'm like, okay, but what are they and what's the difference? Because I know there's a commentary and. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, we'll talk about it in another. time,
Yeah,
though.
but when we learn Torah, even within learning Torah, there are 4 levels of learning Torah that each one is deeper than the next. So you could learn Torah on 4, and at least on a most basic level, there are 4 most basic levels that you could delve into Torah. All great questions. Okay. So what happened? What happened was like this. Rabbi Akiva, he was the one that said this incredible statement that you have to love your fellow Jew like you love yourself. And he said that Zeh Klal Gadol b'Torah. This is the main principle of the entire Torah. Everything is around this. How could it be that his students who learned from him, and this is what he was known for, that his students should not display loving each other, if this was what their teacher was so famous for. So the answer that we always get is because they were in such a high level. So even something small that they did is a problem. And the problem was that they didn't love each other. They didn't have enough respect for each other. And therefore this plague came about. But still, it begs the question. Rabbi Akiva was their teacher. So where did they, so basically what happened, Rabbi Akiva would teach. And each of the 24,000 students understood it a little bit differently. And they loved their fellow so much, like they love themselves, that they wanted that their fellows, that their friend should learn it, to understand it the way they understood it, because they loved them so much. But when that didn't happen, because the next student wasn't flexible, because he understood it a little bit differently. And he wasn't going to let go of the way he understood it. As a matter of fact, he wanted the other guy to understand exactly the way he understood it. And therefore, there wasn't the highest level of respect. And therefore, the plague came about. So the question is, why weren't they flexible? Why weren't they flexible to be able to understand that someone else could have a little bit of a different view? Like to tolerate someone else's, someone else could see things a little bit differently. Like, what's the big deal? The fact that they were so strong, the fact that each person was so strong in his belief and couldn't budge, where did that come from? So ultimately, this trait, this character trait, this unbelievable strength, that it's my way or the highway, and I'm not moving, I'm not budging. This is the way it is. And I'm not taking any other, I'm not taking any suggestions, any advice. I am 100% sure this is the way, and I'm not budging. Where did that come from? And ultimately, that also came from Rabbi Akiva. And we're going to see how that was displayed in Rabbi Akiva, and what went wrong. This is where we're going. So just to give you
Very competitive environment when they wanted to go to be the best student.
I'll give you an example. My husband and I, we moved to Toms River 20 years ago. When we moved, we had a 2-year-old, and I was like expecting Rachi very soon. And we came to Toms River. We spent all of our money on day one just to move and to pay the first month's rent and a month's rent of security. So we have zero, and don't have $1 in the bank. We're coming with one baby, and one baby is on the way. And we received 3 pieces of paper with a staple on the corner with names that Rabbi Chazanov so graciously gave us, people that in the past 20 years contacted him that were in this area, in Ocean County area. And we came and we looked at each other. We came from 501 New York Avenue on the 6th floor of an apartment building with a bus stop downstairs. Every time the bus stops, like the whole building shakes. There was constantly noise and lights and sirens and whatever. We come to our first house on New Hampshire Avenue, which is also at the end of a driveway, dead silence, no lights. It was like,
Is it the house in between the little church there?
no, so it was on New Hampshire Avenue. It was at the end of a driveway in New Hampshire Avenue. We come the first night, we look at each other, it's like spooky. And we have these 3 pieces of paper to make cold calls. So, you pick up, you make calls, leave a message, whatever. The first person that I actually got through to, her name happens to be June Feldman.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's my mother was her best friend.
Wow.
growing up, so I know June for years, and her son Scott was my first date. Clinton, of course.
Okay, so we're talking a long time ago.
Feldmans. Oh my gosh, yeah, June.
So she invited us to her house. No.
Because you're also,
No,
I made
my
it
dad
even
was
spell
very Orthodox, and very conservative, like I knew Scott from school.
So she was the first person that we went to visit her in her house. And she was so nice. She actually invited all of her friends, and we had our first Jewish women's circle in her house a week before I gave birth to Rachi. And And she was so, so sweet, so, so nice. And at the end of the meeting, she gave us a check for $18. And she said, you guys are so wonderful, but I want to give you a piece of advice. Move back to Brooklyn. She said, there's nothing for you to do here. There's nothing to do here. There's a conservative, there's reform, you're such nice, yeah, you're such nice people. Like this is crazy. So my husband and I, that thought of move back to Brooklyn was not, that's what it means. It was not an option. There was no, it was completely, we weren't budging. We came here with the Rebbe's blessing and with such idealism, we were not going anywhere. Even if 100 people told us, go back to Brooklyn, So saying there's a certain strength, a certain conviction. I know what I'm doing. This is the right thing. No matter what you say, we're staying here. No matter if it doesn't make any sense, it's illogical. It's illogical. You come with babies to a place with zero, with zero salary, paycheck coming in the mail, nothing. And
like for kids, would you move back, like I'm saying, like if the kids didn't have anybody,
That's good, that's not.
so from the cradle, our education was the best thing you could do in your life is go to some community and make a difference. And it didn't matter that it was illogical. It was illogical. I don't know how we did it.
Said he wanted to go as far away as possible from anything that has a real community. So Lakewood for him was not exotic.
Yeah.
He wanted to go to India, to Africa, like he was.
No, when we dated, yeah, that was the question. Would you go to Australia? And the answer was yes.
Basically, all the stores are here, the schools, he said, it's not enough of a difference. But then he accepted it.
the people.
He wanted to be where he would be struggling to buy kosher food. Not because it's easy, because it's, of course it's hard, but the difference would have been in it.
Yeah. I have a brother in Iceland who has to, for every bottle, they don't have milk, but I'm saying for every yogurt is coming from France or somewhere else. Yeah, and I'm saying absolutely, but
do you
God
remember
knows.
the difference, but I don't know how long it was afterwards. Do you remember how you met, it was Jamie? You went to the park and she
Yeah.
noticed you and she came right over. So look at that, like it was meant to be.
It was absolutely meant to be, and it
Yeah.
took a lot of time and a lot of patience and a lot of trust in God. But the reason why I said this was to explain to you there's a certain conviction that you know something in your blood, and there's no one's going to talk you out of it. So this is how these students felt, and where did they get it from? So they got it from Rabbi Akiva himself. So let's see.
So that part is okay, having that conviction. It's fine to have your own opinion and your own mind.
No, but I feel like that's what, usually when we wanna uphold our belief,
Yes.
right, then because we wanna feel like we're right, then it could turn into judgment.
Yeah.
Because we need to uphold it, but I
Yes,
feel
yeah.
like there is a way to do it
Okay.
without
Let's find out.
judgment.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an amazing.
You want to inspire, not demand.
Yeah.
You want to inspire and not demand.
Right.
And I think when you feel very passionate about something, you can't just because somebody sometimes you're with and you're an idiot because look at this, and that's human nature too.
This is a fine line between
How do you
having
inspire
conviction and
patience?
not judging
And the
somebody.
patience to inspire, because
Yes.
inspiration can take time. It's not an
Right.
event, it's a process.
No.
Okay, you're saying amazing things.
See this in the opposite way, where for the other side, they don't mind taking 30, 40 years to convince us to do something.
Yeah.
They had that patience, and look, unfortunately, it paid off. So now we can learn to do the same thing, but on the good
I
side.
think that's why parents can sometimes, at times, alienate their children.
Right.
Because they're trying to influence them and inspire them.
Yes.
when they see the children going in their own directions and they don't agree or
Yes.
approve of it,
Oh, yes.
you have that immediate conflict if you're not gonna be more.
So true. That is so true. That's the most powerful lesson for us to learn.
Thankful about.
Yes,
that's the thing.
thankful.
That have patience.
So ultimately, the question is, ultimately the question is it about me? This is my way? Or is it about, why do I have this conviction? Because of how it's going to affect the world. It's not a personal, it's not a competitive thing that I have to be, that I have to be great, or I have to be the best, or the best student. It's about why do I have this conviction? Not because I have to prove to you that I'm right, but I have this conviction because this conviction is going to impact the world. This conviction is going to have an effect on someone else.
Right, they have very strong beliefs.
I agree with what's everything the Rebbe taught and see this, right? So I mean here believe that is the way, right? But I grew up in a totally different
Right, there was no amazing who did also.
where they think their way is the right way. And it's
So over
it's
time,
very
there were
interesting
fights.
because the impact that I had was
Exactly, over time, there were fights.
The impact that I had
Send us any place in the same.
Wait, what are you gonna say? I wanna hear what the rest of what you're gonna say is. Yeah,
Yeah,
hold on, let it finish, because she's in the middle of saying something.
the impact that I had with Sichos, I can't understand why they think that way is the right way, but really, that way works for them, and this way works for me.
And that way is.
And ultimately, we're trying to get to the same place.
Right, that's true.
Because I have to share a story. I posted on the WhatsApp last week as a continuation, because it fits so well with last week's teaching with the four kinds. It's the same thread. But what was the story there? That there was a rabbi, and every Shabbos he would go to shul, and on the way to shul there was a Jewishly owned store, and there was a Jew who kept his store open on Shabbos. And the rabbi couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand every single week to walk by the store where this Jew is operating his business on Shabbos, and it bothered him. So who did he go to? He went to speak to. Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, thank you. And his rabbi told him. He said, "Do you love him?" And he said, "No, I hate him." So his rabbi said, if you love him, then maybe the problem isn't with him. The problem is with you, that you don't love him. Because you don't love him, that might be the reason why his store is open on Shabbos. And if you love him, then maybe you'll close the store. And I actually put this story in a hint in last week's video, in the kids' video. That was one of the scenes. I made that scene. I made a scene of a girl, walking to shul, and there's a shul, and then there's a store that says "Welcome, open," and the woman walks by, and you see her blowing her a kiss, and then the store closes, and the both women walk to the shul together. But I made that scene as a result of the story. So what happened when it's not about me, I need to be right. I'm having an argument with you because I want to prove to you that I'm right and you're wrong. That's not going to get anywhere. But when the other person senses that you love them, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different story. If it's forcing, there's a parable. There was the sun and the wind. You know this one? It was sun and the wind, and they had a contest. The guy is walking down the street. Who's going to get the guy to take off his jacket? So the wind says, I'm for sure going to win. The wind is blowing, blowing, blowing. The more the wind blows, the more the guy holds on to his jacket, tighter and tighter. Then the sun comes out. The sun is shining and shining and shining until he's so hot, he's melting, and he takes off the jacket by himself. If you're coming with force, this is the way, I know this way is the right way, and you have to listen to me, and I'm right and you're wrong, you're going to get nowhere. As a matter of fact, the Rebbe said, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, when teach Chassidus, if it helps, don't say that it's Chabad Chassidus, don't mention my name. Don't say where it's coming from. He didn't need any, any honor or fame. Don't say where it's coming from. And the Rebbe always said, it should be ba'ofen hamiskabel, in a way that it could be received. If the second you say, oh, this is coming from Chabad, the person's brain shut down, then forget it.
I had that with a client, but I said it as Hasidus. Wow, that was very interesting story.
Go ahead.
We have a friend, and three brothers came and an older brother from villages. And the older brother became religious right away. But he was so determined to make his younger twin brothers religious. It went completely the opposite direction. Everything was, I can't believe you're doing this. You're gonna go to hell. This is a sin. So negative, and they were not ready for it. He came a little bit earlier, maybe I don't know the chronology. So to make a long story short, his oldest son married into a wonderful twin family. And he visited them. My friend visited that family years later, because that boy was, we're talking about first, he said, it changed the entire perspective. That I found people have joy in their lives. We were sitting at the holiday table, people were smiling. I wasn't afraid to make a mistake. But it took him more than 20 years.
Wow.
So is it a favor to his brothers to behave like that? I think it was the opposite.
It wasn't, but that was.
You didn't know better, you didn't
Yes.
know that.
Yes.
That's right, that's what you know.
So I like how Rabbi Dorari operates. The best
We know better.
things I learned when he never tells people what you should do, but he tells what he does. I remember he was just saying, we were there, Shabbos, my other meeting, and he said, oh, I had to throw out so many things from my car. I don't remember what it was. What? I said, well,
Yes.
because it was already Shabbos and I forgot in my car. Because the car couldn't get it out. He said, because if I open the car door, the light would go. I said, what? I knew it. I didn't.
Even though, yeah.
He didn't say, oh, you should do that. Everybody. He was just saying, I had this. And that resonates so much because that's a sacrifice. But most people don't even know that. I think that's the best way.
So you always have to ask yourself, if you see someone that's not as religious as you, when even, and you could say, I love them so much, so I want them to do this, and does the other person feel your love? Does the other person feel that? Even if you say, I love them, I'm doing, or it's my child, I love them to pieces, and therefore I'm insisting that they, do this and don't do that, whatever it is. But if the child doesn't feel the love, and all they see is that these are your principles and you're imposing your principles on them, it's just going to backfire.
Saying, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
You care for them, then they open to accepting.
That's the first thing. That's the first thing.
Right, and she said, I put on the script for you guys.
Wow.
We laughed, because it was just so funny, I said, for us.
Fine, whatever. And then, but they used to go, if she's coming already, tell her to come not, at least one way, not on Shabbos.
No, I got a right up to sleeping.
Right, it's sleeping over, but she lives in Toronto, she's not sleeping over. So I said, come to light candles with me. So she goes, okay, so she came like, I guess 5 minutes after this time, but it was Gunther, so it was definitely in this month. Then she came the next day to show me her new car. So it was like, when we're sitting on the, I don't want to do it because she's listening to the tape.
Okay. So the yeah. So that the main thing is that our children, our friends, our acquaintances should feel the love, and that's the first step. As a matter of fact, the Baal Shem Tov, in the times of the Baal Shem Tov, what did he do? He went. The Jews were in a very both physically and spiritually, they were in very hard times. But first, you have to do a favor for another Jew physically. Does he have enough money to buy bread for his family? To say hello? In a when a person's coming to you and they sometimes you have to first feed, or all the time, you have to first feed them, and take care of them. And what are their needs? Food, shelter, clothes, and take care of them. And then you could start talking Torah. You have to show the person that you care about them. It's not just, I have this information, I want to impart it, I'm so great. You have to talk to the person, and that they're the it's not about you. It's about what the person needs.
Sometimes we make a mistake. We think, oh, I'll do good for them, and then you expect something back in return. I want to see progress here. Just enjoy the person, accept them, be a good example. And whatever happens, happens. Don't do something in order to see progress or to.
In any relationship, because if you're expecting the result, then it's not right. But it's openly, then there's process, but if you do it because you expect return, it's not gonna happen.
And it says about the Baal Shem Tov that before he became this great leader that everyone knew, he was a helper. He was a Malamit's helper, and he was like they didn't have buses in those days. He was the bus monitor to collect to bring all the children to the cheder, to bring them back and forth, because there were forests in between. They had to gather the children. That they should be safe, take them back and forth to and from cheder. And it says that the Baal Shem Tov, when he would kiss the children, the Jewish children, he would kiss them as if he was kissed with the same love and emotion that he would kiss a Sefer Torah. That's who the Baal Shem Tov was at a young age, that he would kiss children like he would kiss a Sefer Torah. A person who kisses a child like he kisses a Sefer Torah, his Torah, what he has to teach you
Goes in. I could tell you from experience, we were told with my son, don't criticize him, even if he lays in bed a whole day. And then COVID came and he did lay in bed a lot. And we bit our tongues, oh my goodness. But my real progress with him started when I started making peanut butter cookies.
Wow.
If anybody wants the recipe.
Change the magic in the peanut butter.
Yes, it's not about, it's about hearing.
I just might eat on.
He loves peanut butter cookies, making peanut butter cookies, and that's where I really started feeling that he felt my love for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. We have a tradition that every year after Yom Kippur, after the fast, we serve a babka cake. How did it happen? I made babka 1 year after the fast, and there was one individual, Larry Garfinkel, and he brought a piece of kakash cake to his wife, who didn't come to Shul for Yom Kippur, and she loved the cake so much that she said, I have to come to this place where they serve this cake. And we became very, very good friends. And forever, we're serving babka cake after Yom Kippur. Beth's son, and Andy, and Josh. Andy and Josh, you know how they came to Chabad Tom's River? Okay, I think Andy came for the challah, but Josh came. Josh came for the Oreo chocolate brownies. And he would come and every time I knew he was coming, he was a teenager, he had a lot of things to do. He would come Friday night for dinner because we're having Oreo brownies. And for years, I would say, Beth, or she'd say, Josh is coming, what's the recipe? Or let's send it over, whatever it is. But it's the challah, it's
Mishka's cookbook from her bus mitzvah, infamous recipes. My grandson in Texas knows Bubby because of those brownies.
Wow.
Yeah.
So first you have to feed the body. Thank you, Bela. First you feed the body, and then you can feed the soul. You have to talk, you have to love the person, just truly love them.
Yes.
It's not about me and my knowledge and
Any agenda.
no agenda, exactly. It's about the other person. When you have the love for the other person, then then they're happy to hear what you have to say. Okay, so there was a what was the issue? What went wrong here? Rabbi Akiva, his entire life, he had one goal. There's one thing that he wanted. He wanted to have an opportunity to die al Kiddush Hashem, to actually give up his life for God. There's a difference between Rabbi Akiva and Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was willing to sacrifice. This is a completely different teaching that's coming to me from a long time ago. So I don't know if I remember all details, but Avraham Avinu was willing to sacrifice his son because God said so, right? God told him to sacrifice Isaac. But for Avraham, I believe this is how it goes. For Avraham, he wasn't looking for an opportunity to die or to kill his son. He had to serve God. Now, whatever that took. Versus Rabbi Akiva, who his whole life, his mission was, when am I going to have that? He was troubled by this. When am I going to have the opportunity to die, to give up my life for God? And at the end, he was killed in a very brutal way by the Romans. And the students asked him, how could you tolerate this crazy pain? And he said, this is what I waited for my whole life. To give up my life, to sacrifice my life, to have Mesiras Nefesh, to actually give up my life for Hashem. This is what he was looking for. Now, when a person is in this mode of Mesiras Nefesh, that there's such strong conviction that they want to, that they're so Mesiras Nefesh doesn't just take up part of your body; it takes up your entire being. It takes up your entire being, and that's why you're so immersed in it, and therefore you can't budge. You can't budge because your entire being is enveloped in this desire for Mesiras Nefesh for Hashem. When a person is in a state of Mesiras Nefesh, they're not flexible. They're not flexible. They're not able to hear anyone or anything. They're so committed. They're so committed to what they feel is the right thing to do. And Rabbi Akiva, that was his personality. That was his character. That's how he lived his whole life. His whole life, his whole being was Mesiras Nefesh. He was constantly in the mode of Mesiras Nefesh, which overtook his entire being. And his students learned that from him.
Do you know how they said that he stayed away for 24 years from Bethel?
Well,
That is a
12 and then another 12.
Yeah.
12 and another. That is a
Yeah, the story is that he went to them for 12 years and he came back home and he didn't even come into the house. He heard while he was outside, his wife having a conversation with another woman. And the woman said, how could you let your husband go away for 12 years? You're crazy. And she said, if my husband wanted to stay another 12 years, I would be happy for him to do so. He didn't even come in. He turned right back around and he went back for another 12 years.
You know what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yes, he definitely had a show. They said he was in the same classes.
Wow.
But you know what? If you look at it, it's contradictory.
You're married before you learn. You're married until you went, to learn.
Yes, he gave up himself, but he didn't give up his life to his wife.
Okay, so we could argue that, but on the other hand, he knew that this was her truest desire. He was giving her what she wanted. It's not that she was neglected. She didn't just say it. This was her greatest dream.
They're on the same page.
And then her husband came, they were on the same page. And then her husband came back 24 years later with 24,000 students. And she was a very, very poor woman. And she came out to greet him. And they wanted to shoo her away. And Rabbi Akiva said to his students, my Torah and your Torah is all because of her. So he had the respect. He honored her. And he said to her, when they were first married, they were so poor because her father disowned her, thinking that she was marrying just a low life. And then the father, when he came back so successful with the 24,000 students, the father came to him and said, since he was such a great rabbi, could you take away a promise that I made? I promised that my daughter wouldn't inherit anything. So the Rabbi Akiva said, if you knew that your son-in-law would become a great sage, would you have made that promise? And she said, and he said, no, I would have never made that promise if I would have known. So he said, okay, it's void. The promise that you made that your daughter wouldn't inherit anything. Right in the beginning when they got married, they were living so poorly. All they had was straw, and there was a knock on the door, and someone came and said, "My wife just had a baby. Can I have some straw?" And they gave straw and said, "Look, there's people that are even more unfortunate than us." And he promised her. He said, "One day I'm going to give you a keter, a crown, a golden crown of Jerusalem. Yerushalayim shel zahav." And so, you know,
He did give
It's the
some.
most incredible.
it's an incredible story.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
Not fully, but in the most holy way.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he did give her the gift.
Yeah.
It's not like he neglected her.
Right. That was
And
yeah.
he was got money.
So what's the difference? So what did the 24,000 students miss? Yes, Rabbi Akiva, he actually died on Mesiras Nefesh, and that's what he wanted his whole life. That was his goal. But Rabbi Akiva did more than that. It says, and maybe in Pirkei Avos, I have to check it out. There were sages that went to the spiritual worlds, and after they had that experience, most of them weren't able to be normal on this earth again. Rabbi Akiva was. And why? Because it says, Nichnas b'shalom and Yatza b'shalom. When he went into this unbelievable worlds of
We're
secrets,
delving into something very,
paradise of Torah.
right, secrets of very high secrets.
Yes. So when he went in, before he went in, in his mind, he prepared himself that he's not just going to go for this incredible elevation, inspiration, and that's it. But when he went in, the intention was he's going in peacefully and he's going to come out peacefully. Which means that he's not going to get stuck. He's not going to get stuck in the spiritual realms, and that his soul should just expire and be with God. But no, that he's going to take the light and inspiration and he's going to draw it back down here on this earth. So most of the students got stuck. In yes, he actually did give up his life for Mesiras Nefesh, and they got stuck in that
But Aaron McLean sons.
yes, like Aaron and sons, that they wanted to come close to Hashem, and they forgot to return, and they passed away. They brought a ketores. They wanted to come close to Hashem. They went into the Kodesh HaKodashim. They brought a ketores. The day that the Beis Hamikdash Mishkan was being inaugurated, and they didn't want to get married. They didn't want to have children, and their souls left them. And they didn't have the opportunity to live in this physical world. So they.
It's their intention.
Yes. The intention. Everything happens in the mind. Everything happens in the mind. If you go in knowing, looking at the whole picture and saying, I'm not going in just for my greatness, for my elevation, so that I can enjoy the secrets of Torah and come close to Hashem. That's part one. When you go in, you have to know that the reason that you're doing it is to bring it back down. There's a concept of ratzui and there's a concept of shuv. Shuv means it has to return. It has to come back down here. It has to materialize on this earth. If it's just going to stay in heaven, that's not why God created the world. And everything in Yiddishkeit comes down to the practical, physical, most basic physical, tangible things. the Rabbi, the Baomer, when the Rebbe would bring, when he would speak to his Hasidim for hours and hours on Shabbos, when he was saying a Maimer of Hasidus, a Hasidic discourse, the Rebbe would hold on to the tablecloth. He would hold on to the physical tablecloth so that his neshama shouldn't just leave him. He was sharing such great secrets that he had to hold something physical to keep himself down here. There was also a very great, a very great, I think it was the son of the Alter Rebbe. He was called the Malach. He was called the angel because he was such a great person. And he would learn. Oh, so,
No, it's a malach, which is like the Baomer offshoots of this.
I think his name was Rabbi Malach. Maybe he learned with the Alter Rebbe. I think maybe he learned with. I'm not 100% sure. But when he was learning, I think he was learning with the Alter Rebbe. And when they were learning, and Alter Rebbe saw that his soul is about to leave him because he's in such delight and ecstasy, he had to eat a bagel with butter, just to bring it back down. So the whole thing is to bring everything back down. You know, on Lag Baomer we play with bows and arrows, right? And so I wrote a song for my daughter Mirza Shem. Her birthday is on Lag Baomer, and so I was right. So rainbow and bows and arrows, whatever, and my kids didn't realize, oh, we play with bows and arrows because there was no rainbow in the Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai's time. And I was like, yeah, so we even play with bows and arrows, the most physical thing, you know, so that the child should know that Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai's time, there was no rainbow because he was so great. But it's coming down. Right. It's coming down to the most physical things. Or last week, we talked about the lulav and the esrog, the das and maravis. We make these blessings with what? With the most physical things, a menorah, silver menorah. It's everything has to come down. It's not just enough to be lofty in the sky. For that, God didn't need to create this most physical world, which is this is where it's at. This is where it's at in this world, in this physical world. So just to have Mesiras Nefesh and to have that unbelievable experience and for your soul to leave your body because you just want to connect to Hashem is not enough. It's not enough. You have to have that. You have to have maybe that's step one, to have the desire to be like the fire. The fire is always going upwards. Even if you turn the candle downwards, the fire is always trying to reach up. But the wick is keeping it down here. Yeah, we have to have the desire. We have to have the passion. We have to want to connect. We have to be one with Hashem. But at the same time, we have to have the goal in mind. What's Hashem's desire? What does Hashem want from us? Hashem doesn't just want that our souls just leave our bodies and just connect with Him. Hashem wants a home down here on this earth. So if you have the whole picture, if you're not just looking at one puzzle piece, but you're seeing the whole picture, you see what's the goal? What does Hashem want? It's not about me and I want to connect to Hashem, but it's about what does Hashem want? Hashem wants a dwelling place on this earth, and therefore,
it sounds a little bit like Kabbalah.
Yeah, Chassidus is Kabbalah. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, amazing.
Grounding.
Yes, it has to be grounded.
My daughter is a massage therapist, and she says that if somebody got hurt or something, you hold on to their hand, and that grounds them. So what you're saying was physical.
It's the nervous.
Yeah. So when something physical, when they feel something physical, their mind comes back into their body.
Which is amazing. When a kid is hysterical, having a tantrum, you pick them up and you hug them. You know, they can't explain their emotions are flying.
Right.
But when they feel your embrace, and there's no words have to be said or should be. No words should be said. You know, you just hold them in a tight embrace. But everything has to be brought down to the physical. So Rabbi Akiva knew this. So that's why when he went into these high mystical worlds and had these unbelievable experiences, he went in so that he could take the energy from those worlds and bring it down. But his students, they had the Mesiras Nefesh part. The Mesiras Nefesh part, that they had this unbelievable desire to be connected to Hashem, to be one with Hashem, and they were so driven and motivated, and they had the ideology, but it ended up there was something got stuck, and they ended up they didn't have the concept of shuv, of to return. What does it mean to return? That if your friend is not on your level, or if your friend sees it a little bit differently, not to say it's my way or the highway, but to say, but to have the love that we spoke about, and to say my goal isn't that I should be the greatest scholar in the universe. My goal is, what impact is all my knowledge going to have on the world? If my knowledge and my greatness and my learning is not going to give me is not going to allow me to respect my friend, then there's something lacking here. And because they were so great on their level, if you have a beautiful white tablecloth and a little bit of grape juice spills on it, it's very noticeable. When you're a perfect tzaddik and something very small that a person is not perfect in, it stands out. But another person, a colorful tablecloth, a little bit of grape juice spills on it, no one notices. So this is what went wrong. What went wrong is that they had this mesiras nefesh, like burning desire, and they were so which took over their entire being, and they weren't open to accept anything else from anyone else. And this backfired because they weren't able to respect one another. But Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai, who was one of the 5 students that remained, he did understand this. He understood that you can't just have this unbelievable yearning for Hashem that takes over every single part of your body and you're not able to think about the next person. He understood that the desire, the passion is only step 1. And what do we see in Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai's life? That for 13 years, he was in a cave. He hid from the Romans in a cave. And you know what? There was no physical matzah, and there was no lulav and esrog over there, and he couldn't do physical mitzvahs. There was no tefillin. For 13 years, he had the ratzai, he had the passion, he was in the spiritual world, so he learned everything, he knew everything, was the greatest scholar. And it says, before he went in,
Was he alone, or
he was with his son. Before he went in, if he had a question in Torah, he would go to Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. And Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair would answer 12 answers for any question that he had. But after he came out, if Pinchas ben Yair had a question, Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai would give him 24 answers for any question that he had. But after 13 years of being in a cave, being not having anything to do with the physical world, he came out, and then Rabbi Elazar, his son, when he saw farmers, Jewish people just farming the land, he couldn't handle it. And fire came out and would just like destroy everything that was physical because he couldn't handle it. How could you be plowing the field as a Jew when you could be learning Torah? They both went, Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai went back into a cave for another year. But when he came out, after 13 years, when he came out, he would heal. He would heal anything that his son that his son would burn up. He would heal, and he always asked, what can I do to repair? And ultimately, what happened was on the day of his ultimately on the day of his passing, he shared the most incredible secrets of Torah. And he's the author of the Zohar, which is where all the Kabbalah and the Hasidus comes from. So it wasn't just about being spiritual and lofty, but then in his life, yes, the first 13 years he was in a cave. When he came out of the cave, he took all the spirituality and all the greatness that he got, and he brought it down to this earth. And he taught it to his students, and ultimately the Hasidus that we're learning today comes from him. So this is what we're celebrating. And Lag Baomer is like the Rosh Hashanah for Kabbalah. That's when we were able to get it. It's a very, very lofty spiritual day with a lot of things that are, that are, seem esoteric and that, we don't really know what to do with, but it's all about fire and bonfires and light, because that's really what came into this what came into this world on this day. And I want to just share that about Miriam. So my grandmother, her name was Miriam Popak. I loved her, whatever, I can't even describe. Going to my Bubby's house was a second home. She lived just a few blocks away. When I was a teenager, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, every single Shabbos, I would take my siblings and we would have lunch by Bubby and Zaidi Popak. It was after Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe had just passed away, and my father would spend many, many hours davening. And he would come home from shul at 3 p.m. My father was used to at 1 o'clock, if I bring him begin 1 or 1:30, I don't even know. 1:30, thank you. My father, he would come home after davening, make Kiddush, and run to 770 for the Rebbe's Farbringen. But when there was no more Farbringen, my father couldn't just bring himself to come home and just, have a meal at 1 o'clock. He would stay in shul till at least 3 o'clock and immersed in davening and learning and davening. So when I was in the 9th grade, they had like a chesed commitment. Every girl had to go to Kingsbrook, to the nursing home, right out, like on the outskirts of Crown Heights, 1 week to help feed the patients. So as a 9th grader, I said, listen, let me get this over with. I'll do it in the beginning of the year. And I'll get this commitment over with. And I went in the beginning of the year. And the nurses would say the only time the patients smile is when you come, because they had no family. These people were, there for, it was a very sad situation. So after doing my week, I wanted to continue. So for 4 years, every Shabbos, I met with a group of wonderful, amazing girls, and we would go to the Kingsbrook, and after I would go to 770, and we would learn together. So since my father was coming home at 3 p.m., I would go to Bubby and Zaidi. We'd had Shabbos lunch there with my siblings. So I had a very close connection to my Bubby. And my Bubby, she loved, every Bubby loves their grandchildren, but she really, really, truly, loved us all. And she wanted to hear our Dvar Torah. And she laughed for every joke that we shared. And for every, every report card we showed Bubby, every tooth, every birthday, she was always there. Amazing, amazing woman. So she passed away right before COVID. And Kinain Hara have a very large family. And I said, if I could have one wish, it would just be to have one more baby just to name for my Bubby. Then a short time after that, I met Bela Franco, and she said, we met a few times, and then Bela said, I want to have a class in my house every week. I want a bracha in my house. And I thought about it. I didn't think very long, but I was like, for one split second, like, do I have another day of the week? Because I was teaching in Lakewood, and I was involved in other things. And of course I said yes. And we started a class in Bela's house, where we are here today. And 9 months after we started a class in Bela's house, on Lag Baomer, I had Miriam. And the story is, I was overdue by 2 days, and which I was never overdue by any of the other kids. And my mother said she's coming for Shabbos. I said, don't come, no reason to come. And that day, my husband and a few other rabbis in Lakewood made a big event, a big Lag Baomer event in Lakewood. It was on a Friday, and maybe 700 children came, and this event ended at 3:30 on a Friday. And at the conclusion of the event, my husband said all the organizers should all be blessed. While he was finishing the event, I was in the doctor's office, and I was always wondering, where is my husband going to be when I have to go to the hospital? Because he takes our kids to school. It's an hour away. And I called him. This is like around, coming closer to 4 o'clock. And I said, we had to go to the hospital. And he was 1 minute away, because after the event, my brother-in-law took the kids home. My mother needed chicken bones. I don't know, she needed chicken bones. There were no chicken bones in the house. A regular chicken wouldn't do. She needed chicken bones. So my husband went to get chicken bones. And when I called him, he was at the store. He was literally 1 minute away. And the night before, my sister-in-law had a baby on Lag Baomer. I was like, oh, that's so special that she had a baby on Lag Baomer. And I gave birth to Miriam. It was like an hour before Shabbos came in. And she had that very, very special birthday. But it was a present. It was a present. Here, making that commitment to learn Chassidus and to teach Chassidus. And it was a miracle that we to have a baby named Miriam on such a special day. So you're all invited on Sunday, 12:30 in Mitzvos Hashem. We're gonna have a Lag Baomer event and a celebration for Miriam's 3rd birthday. Yeah, okay, let me just finish the poem. I got carried away.
Share this story last year.
Yeah, okay, amazing. Very special, very special. She's turning 3. Yeah.
Oh, that's cute one.
Baruch Hashem. So we're doing an event in Lakewood in the park this Sunday also. I believe it's like at 5 o'clock. I'll get the details. I'll put it on the chat. Okay, no problem.
It's really nice.
Yes. Okay, let me just catch up and see if I missed anything. Okay. So we're asking, I'm just going back to this poem and I'm asking, why didn't they treat each other respectfully? In their Avodah, why were the students fixed so firmly? Why did they reject the possibility that another approach might be proper? This was rooted in Rabbi Akiva's character. For the opportunity to have Mesiras Nefesh, Rabbi Akiva did yearn. He told his students that for his entire life, he waited for his turn. Mesiras Nefesh permeates a person's entire being. It doesn't leave room for any other avodah or feeling. Although the avodah of Mesiras Nefesh is so great, it only brings a person to a ratzai, to a desire state. They wanted to leave the world and reach higher. But to bring holiness down here is what Hashem does desire. Their souls did depart because each student couldn't respect another with all his heart. Only the 5 students that did remain upheld Torah. They understood that shuv, return, is the avodah, is the work. These 5 disciples had Mesiras Nefesh too, but their Mesiras Nefesh was perfect because they knew that when Rabbi Akiva desired to cleave to Hashem, he went in a peaceful manner with the intention of returning to this world with more fuel and vitality at a later hour. The students of Rabbi Akiva, the students of Rabbi Akiva passed away specifically during Sfira, which is mainly an Iyar, which represents Gevura, because elevating from below to above was their Avodah. Okay, this is an incredible thing. For counting months, so there's 2 ways to count. You can count from Tishrei. Tishrei is the first month, or we can count from Nisan, which is the first month from the Exodus, from when the Jews were freed from Egypt. So Nisan is the first month, and that represents Chesed, which is kindness. God was so kind, he came down and he swooped us out of Egypt. The next month, Iyar, is Gevura. Gevura is strength. Chesed is when God is showering his kindness from above to below. Gevura is your work. It's taking below and bringing it up. So why did they pass away in the month of Iyar? The Sfira, Sa'omer, it starts in Nisan and it ends in Sivan. But when is it? Every single day of the Omer that we're counting, it's in Iyar. Iyar is the concept of Gevura, of severity. And it's the concept of elevating bottom up. And that's what they did. Their whole service was to take themselves and to go up to Hashem. It wasn't about coming back down. And therefore, specifically in the month of Iyar, which represents Gevura, is the time that Hashem was dealt with them in a Gevura-dika way and took their souls, because their whole avodah, what they desired, this is what they desired, this is what they asked for. What they wanted was to just become one with Hashem and just leave this world. And they were so into Mesiras Nefesh that they couldn't see, they couldn't their problem was that they were so immersed in in giving up their own life and in attaining such great heights that they weren't thinking about the world. How is my soul leaving my body going to help the world? That's not going to help the world. And that was
How does that translate from that respect?
I think they were too busy with themselves. They were too busy with themselves, with achieving Olam Haba, with just connecting to the divine, that they weren't, and this was the way that they knew how to do it, and they felt it so much in every single part of their body that they didn't have the capacity to look at the world, which starts off by looking at another Jew. They were just so
Too much.
they're self-absorbed. Okay, now, when does Lag BaOmer fall out? Lag BaOmer is the 33rd day of the Omer, but it's on the 18th. It's on the 18th day of Iyar. What does it say about the 18th? Just like Chai Elul, the 18th of Elul. It says about Chai Elul, which is the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe. That Chai Elul infuses life into Elul. So too, Chai Iyar, the 18th of Iyar, infuses life into the month of Iyar. This is the day that the students didn't die. The point is, the point is that from Chai Iyar, from Lag BaOmer, we're supposed to take all these spiritual lights and bring it down here onto this earth to give life to bring the life down here. That's the point of Iyar, of Chai Iyar. It's to give energy to the entire month and to bring the Chayis, take the energy and bring it down here, not just that to be up in heaven. Since Lag BaOmer falls on the 18th of Iyar, it is clear that Lag BaOmer comes to bring energy and cheer, so that not only can we rise up and get an elevation, but this physical world we can enliven. It brings cheer and joy to the month. It's such a sad month of mourning, but no, it brings chayis, that the Ibergegemenkeit, the devotion to Hashem shouldn't end up in death. That the devotion should end up in life. And to translate into life down here, and to making this world a dwelling place for Hashem, to bringing life to other people in physically, spiritually, emotionally. We see this avodah in the Rashbi's life openly. For 13 years, he hid in a cave and was only able to serve Hashem spiritually. But when he left the cave, any place stricken by Rabbi Elazar, he did heal. Rabbi Elazar was his son. The greatest secrets of Torah in this world, he did reveal. Okay, that's where it ends. Okay, so there's a lot here to process. There's a lot to process. Any questions or any comments?
That it all comes down to intention, that's what I'm like.
Yes.
Even in Rabbi Akiva's Mesiras Nefesh, it wasn't necessarily the right intention.
So Rabbi Akiva, he had it right.
Oh,
He had it right. Rabbi Akiva, he had it right, because it says about him that nichnas shalom and yatsa b'shalom. He knew that when you go in, you have to also come out. Why this part wasn't transmitted to the students, that I don't know. But there's two steps. There's the inspiration. We have to be inspired. We have to be on fire. But now what are you going to do with it? Don't just keep it for yourself. Make sure that the fire and the passion that you have translates into helping another Jew, into making someone else warm. You have two choices. It's a freezing cold day. You have two choices. You're in a freezing cold house. You could put on a fur coat. You'll be warm. Or you could turn on the heat for everyone. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't keep it to yourself, but share it, spread it. Give someone a hug. Give someone else, show someone else some love. And share the passion, not because I'm going to prove to you that I'm right. Share the passion because I love you. And I want the best for you. And I care about you, which is v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha. Okay.
Yes, yes, I